Hey everybody, this is Ian Izzle, and I'm here with my good friend.
John from BeerMoney2K, baby!
And we are here to revolutionize the WWE's developmental system. Now, the reason that this video is coming into context now is because I've been doing a lot of thinking about what people complain about in the WWE. I always try and stay positive, so very rarely do I find myself in a negative state of mind when thinking about wrestling. But for a few hours, I sat down and I thought, okay, what is the biggest problem that these people have with the WWE? And the first thing that came to mind was a lack of star power. And the biggest problem that the lack of star power can be accredited to is the WWE's developmental system. If you go back into the 90s and the 2000s, the WWE had a very deep roster. So, John, let me ask you this. What is your favorite era in WWE history?
I'd have to say early to mid 2000. You know, it was when I was really getting intimate with pro wrestling for the first time, and the crop of talent was simply awe-inspiring.
Okay, and so you're saying that it was basically right after the invasion angle was over and the WWE had kind of indoctrinated in the WCW roster and started creating stars and using WCW stars for their own product.
Precisely.
Okay, so that was a direct result of competition. Competition obviously does create cash and controversy, but what it does create that never gets mentioned is a desire to create a better product. And since that's never going to happen in the big leagues ever again, because let's face it, there's never going to be any wrestling company that ever actually challenges the WWE as the top dog. But because the WWE only has one developmental company, FCW, I think that might be one big problem behind why they don't make as many stars. Because if you are the best guy in FCW, you're going to get called up. So that right there is going to drain on the talent level in FCW. And at the same time, really, whenever you go to a territory, you can only ever be as good as the best guy there. And if somebody turns out to be as good as the best guy there, then guess what? That guy's going to get called up. So it's just a constant draining of the talent level there. And granted, sure, they're getting brought up to the WWE, but while they're getting brought up to the WWE, the talent level in FCW is dwindling. It's getting lower and lower. And a couple years ago, you would have looked at it and you would have seen, okay, we have guys like Wade Barrett and Caval and all these other talented guys that haven't seen WWE TV yet. But now all of a sudden that they have done NXT and they started bringing guys up so quickly, it's like there's nothing left.
I absolutely agree with you. Pro wrestling is a very interesting business, and Ashton, we've had many conversations about wrestling, and the one thing we agree on is that, it is a business. The object of any business is to make money. And part of the ways you make that money is having great human capital. Now, being an economics student currently in college, human capital is defined as, the crop that you have working for you. And WWE's human capital right now, while it is great, it can't even touch what they had all those years back. Because to me, I define human capital in a wrestling industry. That guy may be a great in-ring worker, but this guy's a great mic worker. So how can we make the mic worker a better in-ring worker, and the in-ring worker a better mic worker?
Right.
And, that's all about upping the human capital.
Yeah, and let me ask you a question. Who is your favorite wrestler of all time?
Chris Benoit.
Mine is Eddie Guerrero. Preston's is Rey Mysterio. And I don't know exactly who Alex's is, but for argument's sake, we'll just go ahead and say Daniel Bryan. What do all four of those men have in common?
The passion and the talent of professional wrestling in-ring. Great in-ring workers. And they've wrestled all over the world. That's where the passion comes in.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was driving at. They have wrestled all over the world, and not only that, but they have years of experience behind their belt. Look at a guy like Chris Jericho. Look at a guy like Benoit, Mysterio, Guerrero, Austin, Foley, even CM Punk. These guys have crossed the globe, and they've made a name for themselves wherever they've gone. That is where the entire argument for this discussion comes from. I think that the WWE, which is indeed a global company, needs to start taking advantage of that fact and go global with their developmental system.
Absolutely. I mean, you just hit it right on the money. When you're a multi-billion-dollar promotion with international connections, they always brag about the tours that they've done of England, Japan, Scotland, all those places. You'd think that they take advantage of that and use them as almost like, talent farms. Oh man, Scotland's so great. Why don't we plant a talent farm here in Japan? That's wrestling country. Wrestling's in their newspapers. You think WWE would say, let's get a promotion in here, and then we can brag about how our guys are being developed there. And they just don't do it. And I think they've got a very archaic model, and a model that isn't just producing enough talent. And the talent that it is producing, while it's good, doesn't nearly have enough experiences compared to a Benoit, Guerrero, or a Mysterio.
Exactly. And if you think about it, put yourselves in the shoes of an aspiring wrestler. If you talk to the WWE and they say, yes, we will sign you and we're willing to train you, but you're going to need to go to Japan for a few months, I think that they should have a bare minimum of a 6-month period that they need to go to the training facility or the training promotion, which I think would be even better, because then not only is the WWE using money to train guys, but they're making money from ticket sales. But on top of that, then, you say minimum 6 months. And then even if a guy makes a big name for themselves and they get really, really over to a point that everyone accepts them, they can stay there until people start turning on them. John Cena was extremely popular as a babyface, but as people started turning on him, how great would it have been for the WWE to be able to send him to somewhere like a Japan or a Mexico or a Germany and bring somebody else in from one of those other territories as their new top guy? Or even maybe send John Cena somewhere else, promote one of your guys that are already working in the WWE to that top guy spot, and bring somebody else in to kind of fill in the sand, so to speak. And then, so you have somebody who goes, say they work in Japan for 6 months. And when I say they work there, I don't mean they work for New Japan. I don't mean they work for DDT or anything goofy like that. I think the WWE needs to create an entire developmental promotion in these countries. They need to create an entire developmental promotion in Japan. They need to do that in Mexico. I think the ideal number that they should shoot for globally is 8. I think they should do one. Let's try and come up with 8 places. We'll keep FCW just so that they have one kind of home base in America. Japan, Mexico, Germany, Canada. Bret Hart would love to work for that. Let's see, Scotland, maybe Ireland. Let's drop Ireland. We'll say Scotland, Africa, because Justin Gabriel would get over there. And just to keep it global, throw one in Australia. Throw one in Melbourne.
Absolutely.
That's 8.
Or, if Australia wouldn't be the style, England would certainly be a great place. Wade Barrett, William Regal, got a lot of great English talent, love that brawling style.
Absolutely.
I just feel like WWE, they pride themselves on being a global product. Well, let's start producing some global talent.
Exactly.
And that's exactly what this company needs to do. And Ashton, my thing is that, okay, let's take John Cena as our model. Because I want everybody to understand, when I use the term human capital, it doesn't mean an entirely new person. You can up your human capital by improving a wrestler already on the product. John Cena, let's say, for example, if Cena had very weak mic skills, which he doesn't, but for the sake of argument, let's say that he does. Say he goes to Japan, and that's where he sharpens them, and then he cuts different styles of promos in England, or in FCW, or in this place, or in that place. It's just, we need to teach these guys the true ins and outs of this industry, and they're not going to get all that in one place, especially in America when you're working for an international phenomenon.
And on top of that, if somebody isn't good on the mic, they can go to somewhere like Japan, cut a promo. If they bomb, they're not going to be able to make it up with that crowd. So then just immediately say, okay, this failed. We're either going to repackage you and keep you here, or we're going to send you away, and in a few years, we'll bring you back repackaged and let you try again. But the whole idea here is that we're getting these guys experience. And more importantly, I think that we need to get them TV experience. How does that happen? Easy. The WWE is going to own their own network. They have a lot of TV time to use up. I think they should choose, of these 8 developmental promotions that we're discussing them creating, choose 2 of them to put an entire half hour, hour and a half, 2 hour, it doesn't matter, whatever they feel is appropriate, show. So say, first week of the month, you get Japan and Mexico. Then the second week, you get Canada and Scotland. And it works out because there are 4 weeks to a month, and then you're getting to see all 8 of these companies every single month. And it'd be fun to keep up with. And then you wouldn't have to scour the depths of YouTube to find stuff like you do for FCW unless you live in Florida.
And that's what I'm saying right there. Just blew my mind right there. And that's what we need. Any business that wants to succeed goes to innovation. They're innovative, they plug away, and they find a way to refine their product. If you showcase these guys on your network, first of all, that's totally new content coming to your network, which equates to more money.
Right. Not
only are you making more money, you're improving your talent, which in the long run is going to make you even more money. Because the better your talent, the more seats you're going to put asses in, and the more money you're going to make from ticket sales and merch sales.
And even to build off of that, if you've got 8 different developmental promotions, and one of them has this really just phenomenal standout mic worker that hasn't learned how to work in the ring yet and still is a little bit green, you can take all of your guys that need work on their mic work from each of those other promotions and the main roster, and you can say, watch this guy and learn. Or maybe you have somebody who's just really phenomenally technically sound. Maybe they sign an AJ Styles to a Japanese promotion or something like that. You can get everybody in those other 7 developmental promotions and the main roster to look and watch and learn. It's all about keeping these guys at their best and taking the best from each guy and helping everybody else to reach that level of greatness.
Exactly. I mean, look, what do people in this world respond to better more than anything? Incentive. We need to teach these guys that there is a light at the end of the tunnel for them, that their hard work will not go unnoticed. If a guy thrives in Japan, and he thrives in all the other territories, we can say, we're going to bring you on TV now. And if he fails under that pressure, we can always send him back to where he's comfortable and keep working with the guy. I just think, when you have a global network, I think it even instills excitement in the talent. Like, oh man, I get to work in Japan, or oh man, I get to work here, all under the WWE flag. And that gives you more global exposure as a product. Again, ups your human capital, improves the talent, makes you more money. I can't poke any holes in this global developmental network of 8, systems all around the world. It's absolutely insane, and I think if it were to even be done as soon as tomorrow by Vince McMahon, we'd already be seeing an improvement. I feel like, why do you have a film industry? I mean, I know you label yourself as an entertainment, company, but, I think your in-ring product is far more important because that's what you showcase so many times out of the year. I think that's where the focus needs to be. Why have a film industry when you can be doing more talent farms, especially to the extent in which you have created, Ashton, in this 8-system network?
Well, and the whole WWE films debate is definitely for another video, but to stay on subject here, if these guys are spending 6 months minimum at all 8 of these 8 developmental territories, by the time the WWE is ready to bring them up, they already have a bare minimum of 4 years of experience. And what's even more important is that the WWE has really been starting to focus more on that they're episodic. They have seasons, they have episodes. It's not just one long, drawn-out thing. So if they can start using a 6-month format, then they can keep a steady rotation going and nothing big is going to change. It'll be a big deal. At the end of the 6 months, it'll be who's sticking around to stay on for next season and who are we going to get to see from another territory for next season. It'll start becoming more like an actual TV show rather than just a bunch of guys that like to fight like MMA has. It'll be a little bit more sophisticated. And I love the idea that they'll have that minimum of 4 years of experience because then we'll be able to avoid guys like David Otunga and Alex Riley who show up, work for less than a year, and then called up to the main roster. That makes no sense to me.
Exactly. They have the experience. And what's so great about this system is, you get the full package. Say Alex Riley would go to Japan. He'd be involved in storylines with his fellow competitors in Japan. You'd have the storylines, you'd have the titles, you'd have the mic time. You'd be working in a legitimate promotion. And that's, the great thing about this network is that each promotion would have legitimacy. It's not like, oh, I'm here to be at the big leagues. Hell, our networks could be so good with how we're building it, you almost feel like you're at the big leagues already. And that's the kind of feel we need to be giving these guys. Because, there's a difference between prime time and no time. And that's what these guys are right now. And we want to bring them up to prime time. We are looking at the future. every young guy that you see when you go on WWE.com's roster page and you see the Alex Rileys and the Jack Swaggers and the Sheamuses and the Cody Rhodes, you're looking into the eyes of the future. And we have to make the future bright in whatever way we can. And I think this is a bold start. It is an innovative start, and it is a start that WWE should take advantage of as soon as possible.
Yes, and you and Preston and Alex are always talking about how the most important thing should be championships. Imagine how prestigious the championships would be in these promotions, especially if they tacked a condition on where if you are holding a championship at the end of that 6-month period, you get to stay in the promotion. I mean, the biggest main event of the entire year would be the last championship match of the 6-month span, because people would be going, holy crap, this guy that's held the title for, I don't know, 3, 4, maybe even the full 6 months, if he keeps it, if he retains tonight against this big challenger that they've been building up for so long, he gets to stick around for another 6 months. But if he loses, then this new guy that they just built up and he just won the title is going to be around for another 6 months, and we're going to get to see him progress. Or at the same time, maybe the WWE would choose to keep both guys around and have them continue a storyline feud into the next 6-month season. There are just endless possibilities with how much better these promotions would be than just having FCW. And I think that really the entire thing boils right down to, even if it's not legitimate competition, just creating the illusion that there is competition.
And that's what WWE prides itself on, that suspension of disbelief. I mean, tell me the kind of buzz you would generate, especially, and I hate to keep going back to Japan, but I really do mean it when I say that's wrestling country. You find wrestling events in their newspapers. Tell me you could pick up one newspaper and read anything about WWE unless it's something to do with the celebrity in it. So imagine if the WWE champion confronted the champion of the Japanese territory. And that would create buzz. If they really felt like, oh man, he's really carrying the Japanese promotion. This kid's got a bright future. He's got the look. He's cutting great promos. He's really taking that belt to a new level. Let's see what he does with our guy. And then you'd have a guy like CM Punk confronting the Japan champion. And it's that kind of buzz. WWE could grow so much bigger as a product.
I'm going to cut you off right there, but only because I want to insert my little 2 cents here. I love where you're going with that, but take it one step further. FCW has special WWE Superstar guest appearances. Have CM Punk show up in Japan to confront the Japan champion face to face. How much buzz would that create? Do you know how many tickets would sell for that event?
Absolutely. And as an externality of that action, think of it this way. What does that do for the Japanese champion? If CM Punk is willing to take his time to go all the way over to another country simply to confront this man, think about the illusion and the perception that creates. Another big aspect of business is branding and packaging. You have to package your superstars well so that I'm able to believe it. If I look at a guy who comes out, slurs his words on promos, doesn't have the best attire, doesn't really seem to have a good build, I'm not going to take him seriously. But, I mean, it's also the intangibles where you create that illusion. When a guy like CM Punk, who prides himself on being the best in the world, comes out to confront you, that, is mind-blowing. And it definitely creates the perception, this guy is a legitimate force, he's a badass, and he's somebody that we need to be looking at as the future.
And one other thing that I think would be so great about this, it would allow the WWE to give more people chances. You wouldn't have people running around for, I think it was 7 or 8 years yelling, I can't believe Bryan Danielson hasn't gotten a WWE contract yet, because if they would have seen him, they would have signed him, they would have thrown him into their Japanese or Mexican developmental promotion immediately, and he would have seen TV much earlier because they would have seen how much more talented he was than everyone else. And then you have guys like Claudio Castagnoli, who's been TV ready for months, if not years at this point, and Chris Hero. And now there's a guy in ROH named Mike Bennett, who I think is TV ready, who could go very far in the WWE. It's just amazing how many doors this would open. If you are an independent wrestling talent and you see that the WWE is opening up 7 more developmental territories and they're going to need 7 more, I'd say half rosters, just because you don't need a full roster for a developmental territory because you don't need everybody. And then at the same time, they would fill that out. They would probably throw a guy like Jack Swagger and guys like Trent Beretta and Tyson Kidd and Yoshitatsu. Yoshitatsu, can you imagine how over he'd be in the Japanese developmental territory?
Oh, absolutely, and that's the real shame of it all. I see potential in a guy like Yoshitatsu, and yet he's not showcased.
If they would do this, they could say, okay, Yoshi, we get that we haven't been using you a lot on TV, so you're going to go ahead and you are going to be the headliner at this Japanese developmental promotion. You're going to get the championship first. You're going to start everything out. You're going to get yourself over. You're going to get the promotion over, and you're going to help get other people over, and you're going to help them to learn the style.
Exactly. And that would be utilizing your already existing talent. I mean, really, guys like Yoshitatsu, let's be honest with ourselves. He's just sitting on the shelf waiting for his contract to expire. You need to take advantage of that time, because time is the most precious commodity that any of us have. And the fact that WWE could sign these guys and not even utilize them, I mean, how elated would Tyson Kidd be if WWE offices called him in and said, Tyson, you know, you are the last graduate of Stu Hart's dungeon. Take your knowledge, take your prowess, and, you know, take it to these guys up in Canada and train these guys. Carry on Stu's legacy in our Canadian promotion. He'd be there in a heartbeat.
Not only that, but they would probably even re-sign Harry Smith and bring him in just to go back to the Canadian promotion. And they have a guy named Rick Victor in the frickin' development in FCW right now who graduated from the dungeon, who they could send up there along. That would be 3 guys that you're not doing anything with right now. One of them is out of a job right now, who you're giving opportunities to make names for themselves and teach other people that can make names for themselves.
Precisely. I mean, let's think, if Chavo Guerrero was still in the business, they could say, you know, Chavo, the legendary Guerrero family, you'll get over as fuck, and you can teach our young talent at the same time who's over there. We'll make you the champion. And then as the champion, you're going to be the guiding light for all these younger talents to get over in their promos and their storylines and what have you. And really looking at this system, I think the one thing that it's taught me, and I hope it has shown everybody else, is that some of the talent that WWE had before they let them go could have played such huge roles in this that it's a shame that they probably never will. It's a shame that this idea will probably never come to light.
Right.
And, you know, that's just the biggest shame in itself.
And really, if you look at a guy like Chavo Guerrero, I guarantee you that if he wouldn't have burned the bridges that he did when he got taken out of the WWE, he would be the name and the face of the Mexican promotion. Look at a guy like MVP. He could be the new face of the Florida promotion. He was always dubbed as the Miami guy, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, it's endless. There are endless possibilities. And not only that, but one more thing I wanted to point out, it would actually give Australian and South African wrestling more than just something that you mention in passing like they do with Justin Gabriel. Oh yeah, he used to wrestle in South Africa, but nobody does that there, so nobody cares. No, wrestling is a big aspect of South African life. It's actually very popular in that country. It's amazing because nobody talks about it because it's in Africa. The South African wrestling community is a lot bigger than anybody thinks. And there are even YouTube videos of Australian wrestling. And it's good. And if they would throw, like I said, if they would throw a developmental system in there, it would improve the economy because you have people going there and paying for tickets and stimulating that economy. And you would have people, wrestlers, really getting a name for themselves. I mean, if you name one Australian wrestler for me, John.
I can't.
Name one South African wrestler for me.
No, then I can't.
Exactly. If they would do this, and they would feature, even if these territories only got 1 hour-long TV show on WWE TV once a month, it's significantly more than they're getting now.
I think your proposal about the economics as well. I mean, think about how the economy is well structured. Let me give you an example of how much WWE stimulates economies. Atlanta, for this, past WrestleMania, raked in $62 million. That is insanity. You know how many jobs that created?
Yeah,
and that's another thing too, Ash. We got to look at the job creation.
Yeah.
Because you're going to need people in Australia, in Mexico, and all those places to run the cameras, to edit the footage, to be the referees, to be the commentators, to be the ring announcers. WWE, by doing this developmental system, you're not only helping their own human capital, you're helping the human capital around the globe. You're creating jobs, and you're bringing in money for these economies.
And the most important thing there is, not only are you giving all these people jobs, but those are more people for the WWE to scout. They're going to need creative writers for these promotions. And people always complain about how horrible the WWE's creative system is. Guess what? They're about to add a whole lot more to it. a whole lot more faces to choose from and a whole lot more talent to groom.
I completely agree. I just find it, so frustrating that they do not see this because, my thing is, you have the chance to exponentially increase your talent pool and help so many people with it. You label yourself a global phenomenon. Now's the time to show your power. Now's the time to flex that muscle because let's be honest with ourselves. WWE doesn't have any competition.
Right.
It doesn't.
No.
It is number one. How do you compensate for lack of competition? By growing even larger than you already are. And that's ironically the solution here is growth. It's not introducing another competitor. It's utilizing your resources in a different way. And that's what WWE needs to do. You don't have to shrink and you don't have to go out of left field. You just have to flex those muscles more and really just become a bigger powerhouse.
And even if you get right down to the business side of it, sure, they're investing a lot of money in getting these promotions off the ground, but from there on out, you're coasting. You are making money because you're selling tickets. And honestly, I wouldn't put it past them to, in these different countries, have nationwide pay-per-views available monthly. It would, I mean, you could even charge people to watch the monthly, and instead of just having it be an hour long on WWE TV, have it be a 3-hour pay-per-view.
Oh, absolutely. Hey, if we're going to do it, we're going to do it all the way. And my thing is, have these interactions because, these guys all across the globe are going to be working together eventually in the future. Have pay-per-views. Let's bring the King of the Ring back, but let's bring it back for this system. Who really is the King of the Ring? Because when you win it on a continental scale, I think that really deserves the title of King. So you bring back the King of the Ring, and you have the African guys, the Australian guys, the Japanese guys, all these guys competing in that tournament. And then the guy that wins. So, you get the interaction. Maybe a Royal Rumble style pay-per-view for these guys. Interact. Go big. It's just, to me, it's so frustrating because your idea is just a stroke of such genius and talking about it and hammering it out, knowing how it would help people, not even in the wrestling industry. A guy sitting at home thinking, how am I going to make money? See an ad of the Timekeepers wanted or this wanted, and they go and they do it. It's just, it's so frustrating. All the things that this idea could, produce, and it's not being taken advantage of. And I think the true root of it all that really is worth cause for mourning is that this idea could be implemented as early as tomorrow.
Yeah.
And then that is, I think, what really eats away at me because I look at a guy like Ray. I mean, we talk about people that could help out in the promotions. A guy like Ray who got his wrestling license at the age of 14.
Yeah.
And it's just, he could have such a huge hand in helping the Hispanic talent. I mean, that's why WWE really wanted to bring in Sin Cara. They realized how big the Hispanic market is. Well, if you know how huge it is, plan a promotion there. And that's how you get more talent.
And Sin Cara is another great example of what we were talking about earlier. Sin Cara is a guy who was famous in Mexico, made a name for himself, and then when he came to the WWE and they didn't force-feed him that WWE FCW slow-motion style, and he started doing amazing things off the top rope, he started out-popping guys like Randy Orton. He got more of a crowd reaction than just about anyone on that roster. And he got more cheers than John Cena, which really doesn't say a ton because Cena gets a lot of boos now. But at the same time, it's still your guy. It's the face of the company. And the face of a company that isn't yours down in Mexico is now coming in and he's out popping everyone. And it just goes to show you how hungry wrestling fans are for something new. And if you would have that Japanese promotion where people are taught the Japanese strong style, and that Mexican promotion where people are taught the lucha style, and that Canadian promotion where people are taught that Bret Hart, Stu Hart technical style, and you still keep everything that you have in FCW where you just teach people the art of storytelling and how to work a basic psychological match, and you get everybody to kind of know all these different styles and be able to work those different, those styles, and you bring them to WWE TV, you can say, okay, this is the style you're going to be working. We're going to throw you against this guy who knows the style and knows how to work it because he also spent 6 months at that territory where you guys learned everything, but he is going to be using this other style that you are also familiar with because you worked at that promotion. and people would be able to have different types of matches than what we're used to seeing. Every WWE match is very similar, and a lot of people complain about that. I don't have a problem with it because I quite enjoy the formula, but there are so many people that complain about the WWE being slow and boring. It's not even funny.
No, absolutely, and that's where tragedy strikes. I mean, let's look at it at face value right now. Both Sin Cara and Rey Mysterio, the top Hispanic draws, are out. If you had a talent war planet in Mexico, you could have had more Lucha Libre talent coming in, and would they have gotten as big pops as those guys? No, I'm not saying that, but at least you could have had guys that you could have continued building to at least get to somewhat of a respectable point. And, it's just, to me, that's really what this is about. And another little small point I'd like to make, think about the human relations that you improve. Again, WWE, global product, they say they love their fans everywhere. Well, how loved are the fans going to feel when they realize they're getting their own promotion endorsed and backed by the WWE system? It's just, it's crazy. Fans will be going nuts. They'll go to more events where, certain countries, the WWE comes, sometimes not even once a year. I don't even hear that they do tours in certain countries. To know that they have a promotion there would mean the world to them. Because now they're getting this fix on a monthly, basis and on a weekly basis.
And how amazing would it be for the WWE to have all these promotions, and then they take that number one guy, that top star in that promotion, and when they do a tour, say they do a tour of Australia like they did this past year, if they take the number one guy from that Australian promotion and put him in, say, a one-on-one match against the mid-card champion, and he gets this huge, massive pop on his entrance because everybody in Australia is familiar with him and the WWE Universe hasn't seen him much yet, people are going to react instantly because the crowd is reacting like they are. I mean, when somebody starts acting like a heel, look at The Rock. When he turned heel, when he wasn't targeting everybody. He only started acting like a heel because of Toronto, but because Toronto fans booed the living crap out of him, the next week, even though he wasn't in Toronto anymore, he got booed. If people get made by one crowd, everybody else is going to follow suit. People are like sheep, and I know I probably just insulted a lot of people there, but it's the truth. People are like sheep. Look at CM Punk. He was getting mixed reactions right up until that Chicago crowd cheered him like crazy. And ever since then, it's been nothing but positive. He's been getting nothing but pops. It's because of that one crowd that just relentlessly cheered for him like he was a god.
It's all about perception.
Exactly.
Because it says, if this crowd is going apeshit over this guy, then he must be the next big thing.
You just summed up in 5 words what took me like 3 minutes to say.
I didn't know, but that's perfectly fine because again, it goes back to what I was snoring like a friggin' alcoholic earlier. It's about packaging and it's about perception. If you bring out this guy and just one crowd, even one crowd digs it, congratulations, you've taken part in a process we like to call the domino effect.
Right.
Because every other city will follow suit. CM Punk, before, I guarantee you, Ashton, rewind a whole year. Do you think anybody who really wasn't as behind CM Punk as they are now would have thought of best in the world for CM Punk?
Really, yeah.
Now it's become a household thing.
Exactly.
Now best in the world is synonymous with Punk. Not even with any thought, and that's not to insult anybody. It's just, that's just what he's tied to. He's the best in the world by all of these crowds.
Yep.
And it's like the people skills that our wrestlers could learn. I mean, think about it. Maybe some wrestlers would come out bilingual. Maybe some guys, after they spend a couple months in Japan, they pick up the Japanese language. Then they go to Mexico, they pick up a bit of the Spanish language. That'll only improve. Can you imagine how crazy the crowd would go if somebody like John Cena or Alex Riley would cut a promo in Spanish?
Dude, that would have been... If they would do that in Mexico, people would lose their minds because it's like, holy crap, they actually put effort into learning our language. They're not just lazy Americans.
Precisely. Again, perception. And that is something I would really rely heavily on with this talent system.
Right.
Is that, guys, you need to show, we say all the time, that we care about our fans, that we care about our company, we care about our brand. They just recently got done, and thank God that ended, the Stand Up for WWE campaign. Well, we'll stand up for you if you stand up for us. And when a guy like Alex Riley could come out and cut a promo in Spanish, that says this company cares enough about us where it's not just about our dollar anymore, It's about the experience, and that's another aspect of business. It's not just about face value, a good or a service.
Yeah.
There are intangibles. There are things called experiences and services. How do you think Disney got famous? Disney is a multi-billion-dollar entity because of the experiences and the memories it creates. WWE is the exact same kind of product. You want to leave with memories so that the kid says to his mom, "Can we go back next week?" And she says yes.
Yeah.
And it's the little things like that that make shit like that happen.
Exactly. And really, one other thing, and I think this is going to be the last thing that we talk about on this, that I wanted to add. If you are a pro wrestler like Nathan Jones, just to throw a name out there, if you are a guy, if you are a guy who is a pro wrestler for a paycheck and isn't truly passionate about the business, and the WWE says, yeah, sure, we'll sign you, but we're going to train you and we're going to send you to 8 different companies over the course of 4 years. You're going to be doing a lot of traveling. You're going to be making a low to medium-sized paycheck. You're not going to be making the big bucks right away. And it's going to take time. And if you don't get legitimately good in that time, you're going to keep on going and you're going to keep on training until you get to a point where we think that you are ready for TV. If you aren't truly passionate about the wrestling business, you're going to back out. You're not going to say, oh yeah, okay, sure, I'm going to go and basically destroy any ounce of sanity that I had already by working this incredibly difficult schedule that would ultimately prepare people for the life on the road in the WWE because of how hectic their schedule is. I'm going to go work this insane schedule just because I'm willing to wait a few years for the big paycheck. You wouldn't. You wouldn't say, yeah, sure, I'll do this despite all this other stuff unless you are truly passionate about the wrestling business. Bryan Danielson would have. He would have jumped on that quicker than flies on crap. It's amazing when you think about the guys that are truly passionate about the business, guys like Daniel Bryan, guys like, in your case, Chris Benoit, in my case, Eddie
Benoit
Guerrero.
would have salivated over a system like this.
Exactly.
Positively salivated.
Exactly. That's my point. The guys that know the business and love the business and are passionate about the business would absolutely eat this idea up. But the guys that are lazy or just aren't in the business for the business and they're only in it for themselves.
Shows like Tough Enough and NXT are not getting the job done. They only offer a fraction of the experience. Well, let me put it to you like this, as corny as this may come off. We need to inject some reality back into reality. We need to show these guys, you're going to be all over the world. It doesn't stop in this arena or that arena. If I say we're going to Afghanistan for our tribute to the troop special, guess what? We're going to Afghanistan. You're going to wrestle a damn match. We need to prepare this young talent. We need to give them that mentality. This is your life now. And if you're willing to commit to that system, then I know that this is the life for you. If you can't, get the hell out of my face because you're taking up my time and your own time, and I have better things to do.
Exactly. And the entire business and the WWE itself would all be better for it. While we are being realistic, and I do think that this idea would realistically change the world of wrestling for the better, unless the WWE implements this, and even though we agree, and just about everybody will agree, that this idea is brilliant to the point that it would work so well that the WWE might even get back to their heyday again. If they don't do it, and realistically they most likely won't unless I get somebody from WWE to frickin' see this video, and what are the chances? If they don't do it, we're just going to be stuck with the hope that hopefully someday there's going to be some kind of a competition for the WWE. And since they bought WCW, there hasn't been.
Let me just close out by saying this. To me, I find it so funny that when some people look at the young talent, they say, that's the next Rick Rude, or that's the next Ric Flair, or that's the next Shawn Michaels. We don't need the next of those guys. Their time has come and gone. We need, and we should be focusing on producing a lot more firsts than we are.
Yeah.
And that is what this system would do. It's not about seconds or carbon copies. It's really about the future, and the future is new, and it's bright, and it's innovative, and it's ours for the taking. Unfortunately, the hand seems trembling when it seems close, and that is the biggest tragedy here. So that's pretty much all I got to say about that, dude.
All right, that being said, I think we're going to close out on that. Thank you guys, everyone who's listening and watched this whole video. I know it went a little bit longer than we really expected. We are going to be doing a pretty big video coming up in January. I'm not going to go any further into that, but I will say, coming up on Tuesday, we have the top 10 athletes in wrestling history. Thursday, I'll be talking about Triple H. Fave 5 Friday. And then, of course, Sunday, it's going to be just me again. I'm going to be doing my TNA booking from Final Resolution this year to next year. Be sure to be on the lookout. Appreciate you guys for listening to this whole video. Get out.